Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar on best practices for collective singing online. I think I will let my colleague Alfred first make the introduction on what will happen today, and then I'll be back.
Thank you, Sonja. So welcome to all here on Zoom and to everyone watching on Facebook and later on YouTube as well. This is our schedule for today. You see here three names of three very experienced users of a digital rehearsal tool who will tell us about their experience with Sonobus, JamKazam, Jamulus, and Soundjack, and I'm sure some general thoughts and ideas on this whole situation of rehearsing and indeed performing online and remote as well. And then at the end of our webinar, we will hear from Digital Stage, which is a tool fairly recently developed, and we will hear both from the developers of Digital Stage and from the choir Muse Mix from Belgium, who is already using it. And we're joined by Sophie and Saartje from this choir Muse Mix, and they will tell us how this is going. So you see here in the schedule that after each session we take a quick Q&A, so you can put all your questions in the Q&A section here on Zoom, or if you're watching on Facebook, you can also put it in the Facebook chat and we will collect this there. So just a few remarks. We are recording this webinar, obviously, but we cannot hear or see any of you attendees because we are in the webinar mode. So all we can see, all you can see is the panelists. And if you actually click on speaker view, then you can't see all of them, but only the one who's speaking at the moment, which is me now, and then at a later stage, someone else. As I said, each presentations by the speaker will followed by a Q&A. So all the questions you have, you can put there. And at the end of the webinar, we will probably come back to some more questions as well. And if you want to use the chat here on Zoom, of course, you can do so, and you should do so to say hi to everyone. Just make sure to click send message to all panelists and attendees, because by default, it's only the panelists who receive the chat messages. So yeah, just to make sure that everyone reads your nice messages there as well. And as always, to get the best out of this webinar, make sure to close other programs running on your computer if possible. And then hopefully, if the internet connection is stable enough, this should all go very smoothly. So now that's all from my side, I think. And we go back to our Secretary General, Sonja Greiner, with a quick introduction to the topic.
Thank you very much, Alfred. And for those who don't know him, Alfred is our second project manager, and he has been preparing this webinar together with others. So I wanted to start by a short introduction on why this webinar at this point. And maybe I can say, looking at the number of people who were interested in the webinar, we don't seem to be the only ones who think that it's a good moment in time to offer such a webinar. And I can say that the idea for this came when I had a conversation with Jim Daus, whom you will hear in a moment. And we talked about the different digital tools that exist. And Jim was very excited about some new tools. And I had the feeling that the market, in inverted commas, of tools that exist was changing quite a lot over the last few months, and that we had exciting new tools that maybe not everybody had discovered yet. We also started seeing more and more choirs actually working with different online programs and not just with Zoom, which was the majority of choirs until quite recently. And we realized that the need for using digital tools had increased quite a lot because people were starting to feel frustrated with the usual Zoom meetings. On the other hand, we also saw that, yes, there is a quite strong community using Jamulus now among choirs, but many choirs don't know all the other tools that exist. and that might fit their specific purposes better, depending on what they want to do, how big they are, etc. Some people may also wonder, why are we doing this now when in many countries the figures are going down and maybe the pandemic situation is getting better, and isn't this a bit late? And my answer would be no, because we believe that these programs are not there only for the pandemic or only useful in the pandemic, but they have a use way beyond. Actually, you will hear that some people have been using them already before 2020, and we are sure that some people in the choral world and the vocal world will use them beyond 2022 as well. You can use them for blended learning that you will hear more about, but also for rehearsals of interregional choirs or alumni choirs. You can prepare international cooperation projects, and an environmental element that is quite important nowadays. You can maybe help reduce the travel costs and the need for traveling, and thus contribute to a better environment as well. So we believe that despite the nice and positive news that in some countries choirs will be allowed to start singing again, outside first and inside soon, these programs will remain important, and you will hear more from the speakers about why. And with this, I would like to pass the word to Jim, who is the first one who will speak to you.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Jim, and you can always choose to go to a gallery view or speaker view if you're not on that already out there. I've been looking so much forward to this, and yes, Sonja, we talked, and we have been talking a lot and will be talking a lot because we have this shared interest to move on with innovation. And I'm teaching choral directing at the school you see here in Denmark, and we have been working with distance learning since 2010 because we have a curriculum design where we invite students from all over Europe to come and join our boot camps one time per month, and then they go home to their choirs, conduct them. So we have been searching for many years for tools so we could still meet them and give them a coaching while they were standing in front of their choirs. So fortunately for us, it was like, okay, when the pandemic hit us, it was like, oh, what a crisis. But on the other hand, we could continue a little bit like we were used to do, and only missing the boot camps, which is a big loss, of course. So I wanted to share with you a few considerations before we today is not, I don't think it's going to be from a technical point of view, because I don't think we are technicians around the table. It's like first-hand experience on working with these tools, so it actually feels good. So teaching from home style is something I have in focus. So first of all, I want to show you this wire here. So it took me some weeks when I had to teach from home back last year in March to figure out that this was the missing link. Wi-Fi doesn't work. Yes, Daniel, I saw you have a lot of Wi-Fi. So it's so cheap, and no matter if you want to try Jamulus, Sonobus, or just a Zoom meeting, it's much better to connect directly to your router. And I don't know why it's not just obvious, but it isn't. So I strongly recommend you to buy this cable and connect it from your computer directly to the router, because then everything works much better. So I think that we are talking about digitally supported practices. So one size doesn't fit all. So this is not going to be copy-paste. What you hear from me is just what works for me. It will work different from another person if you have a bigger choir just around a city, and so on and so on. So, but when I conduct a choir, I think more and more about how I can support my practice. So of course I want to be in the same room with the singers. That's first priority. But maybe we learn from this pandemic that things can be done different and maybe simultaneously on the side to have 2 and 2 be 5 or more, also from the singer's point of view, because they simply learn more. So I think that we are in a high flex situation. So consider these elements I have down here. We have hybrid, I call it high flex, or someone told me that there's something called high flex, so I adopted it. High flex is a combination of face-to-face and synchronous online, for example, like we are now, and also asynchronous online. So instead of just hunt for the best Jamulus solution or the best Sonobus solution or whatever, maybe it's time to think ahead and see, hey, the flexibility in hybrid is high flex. So we want to meet face to face when we can that, and some is already doing that. We want to combine it with something that could be synchronous. For example, I'm going to show you a bit later with my colleague Jesper that we can prepare ourselves. We live far away, so it has nothing to do with the pandemic. But there are ways to meet and prepare ourselves before we meet on the bootcamp because of these newer low latency standards. So I meet face to face with my colleague and my students. We also can meet synchronous using, for example, Sonobus to prepare ourselves for the face-to-face meeting, and blend it with asynchronous online activities. For example, upload of video tutorials where the singers can give a take. This is a take on a phrasing, or I can upload something I want them to give a take on, and then they can upload something, and then we work 24/7 when we think it's about time to put attention to the choral works. Yes, so all we need is less. So it doesn't really correspond to add much more to it. So I think it's like what works for me is giving lesser activities but a bigger output. So my combination as an E-moderator is a combination of using Zoom because it has like this nice layout, and then I combine it with other audio solutions if that's gonna need it. So I need to know a little bit about technique, and I'm here where I live, so I kind of invested in the internet cable, but also in camera and a couple of mics, a mixing desk, so I know how to route the sound back and forth, so it feels good to go to work. So it shouldn't feel like, I hope it doesn't necessarily feel like we just really want to get rid of this pandemic to not ever look at a computer again. For many reasons, of course, we want to move on, but I think that being an E-moderator and have some activities and an e-placement for some of the things that we maybe spend time on when we have the chance to sing face to face, that could be done asynchronous and happen other places if we think more innovative. And that's not the main topic today. I just wanted to focus on that it's not just moving the choir rehearsal to another platform, because it doesn't work at all. It's different and it's good, and maybe we can learn from it and improve from it in the future. Yeah, this is what we look forward to the real life, but also this picture here is a picture of something I like a lot that we improved some years ago, where we have online singers blended in to our concert, because there's a Japanese singer that we could never fly her in all the time. We have a concert in combination with a singer from Brazil and in combination with a singer from Finland, for example, in the same concert. So we actually visit their hubs where they live. So when we improvise, we can have some influence from other places of the planet. I think that's a very nice way to think innovative, because it couldn't happen without technique. So this all leads me, before we go to more practical I want to change to this picture and this presentation window like this. Yes, I'm going to share my screen for a bit to guide us through. Is everything the right settings? Yes. Yeah. You see a little bit of colors here and stuff, but that's because then the videos will hopefully run more fluently. So this is where we teach, and the reason that we have been thinking innovative for quite some time. And this map means that we have actually students from more or less all these countries. So that's why it was important to find this solution. My empirical research comes from a lot of feedback where we tried, for example, how is it possible to teach in Hong Kong? So let's try it out. And that was why we could, back in the last year, we knew a lot about how to put on the original sound in Zoom. That was a good start. It was with a lot of latency, and is with a lot of latency, but at least you can actually be heard. The sound goes through, and you can hear a lot of things back. So that was, years back. We found out that hey, original sound in Zoom is an option. And then at Campus Aalborg, and here comes a little video demo that you probably know that the mothership of low latency that I'm searching for here is Lola. It's an Italian system that we can't use privately, but I think you should know about it, because if you know of a university, you can be on the dedicated network for academies around Europe, and then you can reach out to 3 endpoints in total. So there can be 3 loader computers playing together with a sync, audio sync and video sync. So it actually means that you can conduct and sing and play together with minimum latency. And minimum latency, from my experience, is what you hear from this little recording. It's 15 milliseconds.
I'm very focused on the rhythm, and yeah, today there was no it's cool that it works. I'm always scared, because the rhythm is very important, and then I should not be so scared. I think. Yeah.
I think the best thing about it is that it's an
Yes, so for years we have known of these, Rolls-Royce version of low latency, and here's a map where you can see how many official LoLa connections there are already in Europe. So and maybe more. This is an older picture. Maybe half a year. So it's possible already now to have non-compressed sync audio video, and that's good if you are on an academy level. Now we are getting closer to my little presentation topic here, main topic, because teaching from home, reaching out to singers, what can we do? We're gonna hear more about Jamulus later on, not by me, but from another presenter. This is where I'm sitting. So from my home hub here, I have, because of the Danish infrastructure, I have 1000 megabit upload and download. So it's super fast fibernet. So it actually means that I can reach out to students and colleagues from home almost at this LoLa level. But since I'm connected to the public network, it's not gonna work as smooth as when you are an education network in Europe. So there are something called internet weather, good internet weather and bad internet weather. So you never know. Sometimes it's like fast to do a lot of nice synchronous singing, playing, but sometimes everyone around you is watching Netflix at the same time, so it doesn't work the same way. So asynchronous is not today, but synchronous I would like to jump into. So I have experience with Sonobus and with Zoom and Sonobus with, this is wrong, Sonobus and Zoom and JamKazam and Zoom. So this is actually incorrect. If the internet weather is okay now, I would like to invite my colleague Jesper Holm to route. I will route his sound from Sonobus directly into Zoom to see how the latency is, if it can almost be as good as on the Lola. And if it works, it works, and then I can show you what's behind it. If you don't know about Sonobus. First, I'm gonna. You still hear me? Yes, you do. Okay, cool. Can I hear my colleague Jesper?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm here.
So let me before we try it out, let me share the platform here. So you see, I have Jesper here on my channel in Sonobus, and then I loop back the sound of him into Zoom so that everyone can hear it. Jesper, if we just reset the jitter buffer, then let's see. Actually, yeah, we live far away from each other. I don't know, in 300 kilometers or something. So it looks like the round trip is like 25 seconds, 26. Now it's 22. And I sent to Jesper 2 channels stereo, and he will also send 2 channels stereo back to me in something called PCM 16-bit, so it means it's not compressed. And this is one of the big advantages from other systems, that this you can adjust the sound to recording quality. You can actually use Sonobus also as a plug-in on a DAW to record a remote musician. This is really cool, but let's check it out, Jesper. So if you have this pulse here, yeah, I'll turn up my volume. And a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a 1, 2, 3, 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1, 2, 3, 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. On the piano, Jesper. So the latency is like fast enough to, I think we can play. Is the sound okay out there?
Sounds great.
Thank you. Yes, but you take a solo to check it the other way around.
Sitting in the day to live up the wee. City, but you live up the Baba, face you can. Bab the bab, bab, greedy. Up to Baba,
riff.
City.
All right, Okay, yeah. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. All right. So this is a peer-to-peer software. So it means that I'm gonna I'm gonna check back to you guys like, here I am. Yes, it's peer-to-peer. It means that we connect directly through for computer to computer. So there's no server or anything between us, and that's both good and bad, because for bigger choirs this would not work. Then it's much better with Jamulus, which we will hear about later on why. But the sound quality and the latency, the feeling of playing together, because the latency is like often not more than 25 milliseconds, and that's more or less the limit, in my opinion, where it feels like if you are really in sync or not. And even with 25 milliseconds, you have to, you have to not lean too much back. You have to move on, because otherwise the tempo will slow down. So when we know these rules, I think there's like the first time, second time better, and third time you don't think about it anymore. I think that also for Jamulus choir rehearsals, like we get used to it and know the rules for the game, what's up and what's down. So when you have a wired connection and you have fiber, it requires more or less 1 megabit per channel to each participant. So that means that if you have if you have 20 singers you want to send out to, you need 1 megabit to each computer. And if it's stereo, it's double up. And so they need the same to send it back to each other. So it can be like a mess, and it's not directly recommended for amateur choirs and so on, because not many people, and that's I mean, around here, because of the infrastructure, it's not a problem. You can actually do it. But I know that other countries, they have a lack of the infrastructure, so it's better to not to, send only one signal to the server, and then you get back everything. So that's why it works different than peer to peer. And now you would ask, or you could ask, what about Sonobus, and is it hard to run? And I would say no, it's not. I believe it feels to me and the students, the feedback is like it feels like starting up Zoom the first time. It's like plug and play, and then you don't know also from Zoom that there's something called original sound, for instance. So if it's like the first time you are on Zoom, then it can be like a disaster if you forget to press the original sound, because then the speech codec will take over and the sound doesn't get through. So it's like when you know that, similar to Sonobus, when you know the basic settings and you have what it takes from audio interface and microphone and so on, it's like a nice alternative. So I use 2 layers, 1 layer for video and 1 layer for audio. So Zoom for video and Sonobus for audio. That's my favorite combination at the moment. It has changed because for me, JamKazam is quite similar, and the thing is that we're gonna check JamKazam in a minute to see that it actually feels, it's me and Jesper again, and it feels the same. But, and I'm not an expert here, I must say, I'm not a technician like that, so maybe you could find information about the sound settings for more advanced, but it was easy for me to adjust the settings in Sonobus, and I think there are more options in Sonobus to decide yourself what kind of audio you want to route back and forth. So at a higher level, for example, for education, and where it's like really important to have a timing, and you're not more than maybe 8-10 people, my recommendation goes for Sonobus. Before we check out JamKazam, there's a, let me see, this video here is where some students are singing together. We have one student in Iceland, one in England, and one in Norway, and then me. And the latency is still acceptable. And the method is like, when you know there's a latency, and we talked about first time, second time, and then after, when you know that it works, it's like, yeah, now we can actually work together again. Not only because of a pandemic, because we want, but also because we want to meet a bit more than we normally do, and practice, so that when we have a face-to-face option, we can do it together. So it looks like this wonderful JamKazam, and I think everyone should give it a try, like giving Sonobus a try, because it's relatively easy. Also, it has a nice interface here, and it also has an option for using video at the same time. So if you want to have like not Sonobus and Zoom, but have all in once, JamKazam is an option. It's not for free, and I won't tell you today what it costs, because I think this is something you should check out yourself if you are interested. But it's not for free if you want to be more people involved, more than some time per month, and that's fair, because it takes a lot of work to get these things up and running. But for example, create a session. My computer is running many apps at the moment, so it's a bit slow. Is relatively easy. You start to go private and check out everything, how it works, and then you can go public, and you can start with friends and add friends, so that you have the same rehearsal room every time. And it was a big success. So I think the only reason that we are not on JamKazam at the moment is because it seems like there are a bit more audio settings for Sonobus, and it also free of charge for students and so on. So here comes a version where Jesper and me are on JamKazam. Jesper, my here it comes. Sorry about that. Okay.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. In my hour of doubt, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. Solo.
not nice of me to interrupt your solo, Jesper. I'm sorry about that. So, tech-wise, today, because maybe you have questions about that, I'm on Zoom, of course, and then I use Prezi Next. That's when you saw me using, have slides, including my video feed. I use also a cappella to have some asynchronous practice with my students to meet and practice on the side. I use an LMS to not be confused of all links for all these things. So it's like LMS is one single sign on. Website for Lola, for Sonobus, for JamKazam, and also Jamulus. Gear-wise, I recommend to look into not necessarily specific audio interface, but audio interfaces will have more or less latency built in. So if you want to go for the lowest latency option, then be as analog as possible. It means like an analog mixing desk, a good mic, good internet, and then a fast audio interface like Focusrite or RME or whatever. Logitech cameras, Shure mics, and blah blah blah, whatever fits you. To have a nice working station back home. Yes. So, my last thing before I take some questions would be just to look at Sonobus one more time. It's a free download. You decide, or when you have more than one person, they will just arrive down here, and then you can individually adjust. This is my colleague Jesper, so I can turn up and down the volume. I can make a pan, so I can have more singers to the left or to the right, or make a nice audio mix. I can also add effects if I would like that. I can also down here activate, you can't see that, but I can activate an MP3 file to have a shared audio file if you want to play or sing together with a backing track. You can hear the metronome, and of course adjust these sound settings. And it's really flexible, like JamKazam, where you want to have the input, where you want to send out the output, and sample rate and buffer size and jitter buffer and here it is. Latency overview and a lot of powerful tools. So my time is up. We have now 5 minutes if there are any questions. And I'm sorry if because I'm not a technician. I teach choral directing, and this is to show what works for me, and hopefully some of you, if you didn't know about these combinations, would like to give it a try. So
thanks a lot, Jim. We do have a couple of questions, actually. I just read them out and you can answer them. So first one is, I noticed Jim is not using headphones with Sonobus Zoom. So Jim hears the singer using speakers without feedback?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on a microphone that doesn't take much sound from my speakers, but I'm not a big fan of headphones. But I of course use it if it's needed, but I don't have any issues with feedback because of, I think, maybe the quality and the level and how it's back and forth. If I change to this microphone, you hear me from the room instead of from this one. That wouldn't work. So it's very much about what kind of microphone you're having. Singing mic or a room mic.
Okay, thanks. Then there's a question I think that's very interesting for people who don't know Sonobus yet. And the question is, does Sonobus work more or less like Jamulus, so that each singer has to adjust settings individually?
Yes and no. it's different because it's not based on a central server, so you need more internet bandwidth and speed to reach out to everyone. That's one thing. You can't switch to server on Sonobus. And every singer also need to adjust their sending quality and adjusting the level. But I must say that if for a shorter, 8, 10, 12 singers, it works within not many minutes, I must say. That's my experience. And the ones where it doesn't work, it would also not work on Jamulus. It's because they have some bugs in their internet connection or behind a firewall or something like that. So for smaller ensembles, high quality, in my opinion, close to Lola, very close to Lola, but very individually how well you can send and receive, and that will be, yes, very individually.
Then Maurice asked, is it possible to send live digital piano to Zoom attendees using a Zoom H8 as an audio interface?
I don't know that well enough, but I think so. Because if it's an interface and you can route, what I do here, or my recommendation is to have a little mixing desk, very cheap from Behringer, for example. So no matter what, have a mixing desk to route your mic and digital piano and whatever, and then left right into this Zoom H8 or whatever, because I believe there are 2 inputs. So and then you have total control on what you send into a Zoom meeting, no matter what, or Sonobus or Jamulus. So Behringer is a nice brand with a nice mixing desk, analog, and very good and cheap to route your sound. I wouldn't recommend, if you're not a expert, to route it digitally. It takes more knowledge, and there's no reason to do that.
Okay, thanks. I think that's all we have time for. There's another question from Jurriaan in the Q&A. If you had contact with the developers of Sonobus and Jamulus, maybe you can answer this question in written form while we go on to the Netherlands. So not only can we rehearse across national borders, but we are in this webinar also very international, and we go on to Jurriaan Grootes, who will tell us about Jamulus.
Yes, hello everybody. Also a good place for questions usually is Facebook in my experience. There's like a Sonobus users group and a Jamulus official group, and I found lots of help over there, people answering my questions, and of course me also answering other questions. Good, we will go quickly on to Jamulus. I'll share my screen over here. A short word about myself. I'm not a conservatory teacher. I'm just a mainstream choral conductor, and was eager to find a way to rehearse online, and thus I found about a year ago Jamulus. And I want to take you on a little journey how I experienced last year. It will give me the opportunity to give some examples of how Jamulus works and what the possibilities are. Of course, we all started in Zoom, and then I heard, well, you can't rehearse synchronously online. I thought, okay, that's too bad. A few weeks later, I thought, well, Lightspeed is quite fast, so actually, what are the possibilities? And then I came across a program called Jamulus, also tried out JamKazam and some other options. But for Jamulus, I found a nice Facebook group of musicians called World Jam, and they had the audacity to start a plan to have every week a concert live on Facebook and YouTube. And there were well, doing very well, I thought. So I contacted them and was looking for options to also start online with singing. I'll go to a YouTube movie for that. Sorry, I have to share sound with it. Yes. And this was one of the first World Jam concerts. Okay, so this is a few people, mainly from the UK and Ireland, just starting to make music together. And of course, that's what it's all about. So I contacted a few from them, like Stephen and Simon, and we started the Jamulus Chambers Choir. Here's one of our first attempts. I must say, we added a little bit of reverb to make it more of an overall sound. Interesting thing is, latency-wise, this is a whole other story than what we just heard. It's not about Jamulus, because I think Jamulus can also reach, well, let's say latency of about 25 milliseconds if the circumstances are ideal, but we're very wide apart, like Laura in Sweden, Simon in the UK, Peter in Hungary, and Todd also in Sweden, Paul from Austria, and Jurriaan from France, and Bert from Holland. So that's quite wide apart, but it was even emotional to have that moment together, that you breathe again together. I think you can imagine that after a few weeks in Zoom, it's wonderful to have a real contact again. I'll go back to my other presentation. So we had a choral example. Of course, in Holland, it went partially better after a short lockdown. So my own choir started rehearsing outside, and I'm going too fast over here. No, that's not going good. But I kept rehearsring online, also with a Jamulus choir, and we had a short choral festival. In the meantime, Jamulus kept also progressing. I think they, with World Jam, they made better facilities to produce the sound, and also to what you're about to hear now is a kind of theater mode. So we sang together and played together in Jamulus, but that's combined with Zoom and synchronized in Zoom by means of OBS. So I'll go back to I'll go back to the other share. Next one, this is a World Jam. Okay, hard to interrupt it. Also, latency-wise, we've gone further. Like David is in the east coast of the US, and Victor is in St. Petersburg. So we're really now half a world apart. And that possibilities gave me also the confidence to start singing further apart. So with Christmas, we started a little choral experiment in 1 week to get about 70 people singing Christmas carols. And a new feature in Jamulus was that it got multi-threading. That means more computer cores can work together to enable more participants. So nowadays you can work with up to 150 singers or musicians. This is with Christmas. Seems my hotkey isn't working. So, okay. In the meantime, there were to share more developments and to share the possibilities. I should point out there's a Facebook group called Jamulus Choral Community, and really answers a lot of questions, and also has a nice section of documents to give solutions to problems. There are also lots of YouTube movies. I made a short movie about choral conducting in Jamulus, and in the meantime we even had in Holland a short choral festival. I'll share it over here, and a group of conductors together. Well, that's about kind of limitless possibilities. I should go on saying something more about Jamulus. What do you need? As already pointed out by my colleague, Ethernet connection, no Wi-Fi preferably. Headphones usually work best because speakers, especially with less equipment, don't give feedback. So, and then I think the advantage of both Sonobus and Jamulus is that it's quite democratic, even with low-cost equipment. Like you can use a basic headset, even those cheap ones that come with your mobile phone. You can use them to sing in Jamulus, or use an USB microphone. Though if you're a professional, I would recommend interface to connect all your gear. I have some choir members who can't use the computer because it's a work computer and doesn't allow other software to be installed. You can use a dedicated computer like a Raspberry Pi and have a plug-and-play machine that brings you onto Jamulus and lets you sing together. There are a few companies like Music Bridge and Jam and Sing who provide it for you, and then for about 80 euros you will have well, solution in a box. It's open source. That means that your computer might protest at the moment when you install it, and so you have sometimes a forced install. It's server based. We already talked about that. I'll give a small example. And there are really many tutorials online as PDF and YouTube. And I think at the moment it has the largest choral user group. So, and I think it's especially fit for larger groups and also for groups with less of equipment. But the sound quality is slightly less than in Sonobus. Well, server-based, I have a small picture to point it out. When you're server-based, you each have one connection to your server. Each singer has one connection. When you go peer-to-peer, you have connections with everybody. So 4 singers means you have 3 connections. Like the example I just gave, with 70 singers you would need 69 connections to all the other singers. So peer-to-peer would be out of the question with a normal internet connection. I'll speed it up a little. I see I'm running late. There's a choice of service. You can go public or private. if you make your own server, then other users won't find it publicly in Jamulus, and you can just rehearse with your own group and not be disturbed. At the same time, there are also commercial companies like Chord Live and Melomax who are renting out servers by the hour. So if you can't make it by your own, you rent a server for about €5, and you can sing together, and that's still cheaper than usually renting a church for a rehearsal. What else can there be said? We have visuals. Most people use Zoom because the sound quality and possibilities. And nowadays, some people are using Jitsi. It can give better latency, so it's almost sync in visuals and in audio. It gives a lighter computer load, but less possibilities than using Zoom. And I think the big advantage of Zoom or Jitsi is you can have a hybrid rehearsal. That means with my normal choirs, part of them doesn't use Jamulus. I'm routing the sound from Jamulus to Zoom, so everybody can sing along who is not in Jamulus, and they are singing along with a choir instead of just a conductor. Okay, there's an overview of Jamulus, but I think you should find it out in tutorials online, and also beware of the difference in pedagogics, as was pointed out by my colleague before. You shouldn't try to make a normal rehearsal in Jamulus or Sonobus or anything. You have to find out a new way of and new goals to have online. I think time-wise that should be enough. Let's go on to some questions, perhaps.
Thank you. Very, very good. Luckily, a couple of questions have already been answered as you spoke by Daniel, who apparently is very proficient in like general technical questions. So one question for you here is, how did you incorporate reverb in the choral singing shown earlier? Master mix or each singer equipment? Question mark.
There are two ways. Well, no, there are three ways of making reverb. You can make reverb in Jamulus itself. I can go back to sharing. You have here the Jamulus panel, and over here there's a reverb slider. So that's one way. It's a bit cheapish reverb, I must say. So if you want a better option, you make reverb before the sound enters Jamulus. And the third option is, of course, afterwards. And with first recording you heard, we took the audio, put the reverb on it, and combined it again with Zoom.
And then Patrick asked what hardware is needed to support, for example, 120 singers. Daniel already answered that the numbers of musicians is not affected by quality of hardware.
You do need a big server, because the server is putting all the sound together. So the more participants you have, the more load you get on a server. So like with 120 participants, you would need at least a fast 8-core machine on, for instance, a cloud hosting company.
Brilliant. Exactly. This was the follow-up question. And now he writes fast 8-core TVM. Thank you very much, Jurriaan. So you helped him out there. Okay, that's all I see at the moment, question-wise. No, Jeroen has one more. So last question, are there any choir-related features that you would like to have, but that is not yet implemented in Jamulus?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. It would be nice if it was completely compatible, for instance, with mobile machines. There is an experimental version for Android, but iOS is still not possible, and that would make it even more democratic if people could just have their phones with earbuds and sing along. And you can do it with, for instance, an iPad in Sonobus. That would be an advantage of Sonobus.
No, thank you very much. So any more questions to Jurriaan? I'm sure you can maybe answer them in written form as well as Jim did earlier. And now we'll go back to Denmark to Jesper to hear about Soundjack. Jesper.
Hello, everybody. I'm also teaching at the Royal Academy in Aalborg in Denmark together with Daus Hjernøe. And teaching a lot of students in vocal leadership and conducting choirs with pop and jazz, rhythmical music. And my specialty there is actually conducting technique. And that means it's also about, of course, all the things that we work on, sound and blend and whatever, but also, what do you do with your body language, and how do you actually act with body language, and how do you conduct, and what effect does that have at your singers, on your singers? And with this topic, it can be a bit difficult to teach online because we often have a bit of delay. So conducting singers via internet is a problem. Now we have talked a lot about the sound. How do we get the sound to be precise when we sing? But how do we get the conducting to be totally tight? So, boom. So it's just there and not boom. And that's, of course, difficult. I tried also all these programs, and the only one I've found that really can do this synchronization in the video part was Soundjack. And I'm still just trying out, see what can we do, because there are some limitations with the sound, for example, when the video has priority. So the reason why I'm invited to talk a bit about this here is that I actually had a little experience in doing one session actually with the choir. Students, I have the students in Aalborg, and I actually have a wish that also in the future I could actually teach from home. So they were together there. I live 500 kilometers from that city. So sometimes I could just have 2 hours of teaching from home and also do the conducting, and as I could show them conducting, let them sing directly to my beat, exactly here where I am and not delayed. I tried out this Soundjack a lot with Jim, actually just 2 and 2. And here you can just have a look at how the interface looks like. This is the main page. And then there's a panel here with a lot of details. I will not go in details with that, but here you see how what you should adjust to get a good connection. And some of the very important stuff is the sample buffer, and it's also the network buffer, and it's the jitter buffer here up here, and here's all the people that can be here. This picture is just taken from YouTube, and you can find information, more information there. I will put it in the chat where you can have all the technical information if you like to dig into that. This year I also taught a group of students in Norway via Rama Vocal Center in Denmark. We had cooperation with Nord Universitet in Norway. And this year I didn't see them live because I was not allowed to go to Norway. And I thought this is the time we need to try out so I can conduct them just once. They could meet in one room and I was from home. And I had some technicians in Norway working on their firewalls protection to take that off. I had a technician in Denmark to guide them in the right way to get a result. So we had actually a connection. There was 1,000 kilometers between us, and I think that there was, of course, some difficulties to get a good connection, and but my goal was to see is it possible to actually conduct them. And the sound in my ears were not the best. There was some jitter, and I had to priority my video when I sent it to them. So my speech to them were not that good at the same time. Then I had to change some parameters to get it. But here you can see the solution, the result of the connection. So have a look at this format coming up in a second. This was taken just with iPhone. Two clips of iPhone I just put together here. Nothing else done with this recording. So you just saw how they reacted to the conducting. And in my ears there was only a slightly delay. But the quality, as I said, was not that good for what I just heard. But we actually succeeded that they got an experience in how do I actually conduct this song myself when I conduct them. And it was great feeling to be able to actually conduct the choir. I haven't conducted choir for many months at that time. So it was really, really a nice feeling, I can tell you. That was, very great. I think it's time to ask some questions if you have any.
Thank you, Jesper. I think a direct follow-up to what you just said, Patrick asks, so we could see the choir singing together, but did you actually hear them back in sync with your beat as well when you conducted?
Yeah, very slightly delay actually. So it was just as if you conduct and the singers are just a bit behind, as they sometimes are in the real life. So there was a bit delay, but not that much disturbed. You can imagine if you were a bit far away, maybe 20 meters from your choir instead of just in front of them, then approximately the same. I think that we had 30 milliseconds of delay.
Okay, thanks. Any more questions for Jesper? So there's a question. You said something about taking the firewall protection off. I don't quite remember when you said it. Maybe you could.
Yes, sometimes it can be an issue on universities or other institutions that they are more protected than at home, or it can be more difficult to get directly to your to the engine in your computer. I mean, what we need to do is with all the other stuff as well, actually to get a connection directly, port forwarding it's called, port forwarding to your own to your computer in your in the house. So, and that will actually minimize the amount of delay. Actually, it's getting a bit technically here, but it can be more difficult to do that in a big institution that are more protected than if you only have your own router at home that you have totally control over. So that's one of the main things there. I will just add one more thing to this here, and that is if you want to go for a connection, I think, and that's something I will try out now, it's connection of Sonobus and just the video part from Soundjack. And I had to, as you also could see, it was video in black and white, so I have to rescale, so it was a black and white and low resolution. But they could actually follow because it was precise, and for them it was good, a very good feeling. So future could be Sonobus, I think, or something else for sound, and then maybe this for the conducting, if that's your main thing.
Thanks. And then would it have worked as well if each singer was at home, because now the choir was all in one place and you were conducting?
I have not tried it with the singers in their home. That will also maybe if they are the Sonobus, it can be done, but you also have to have a very good and fast connection, so you can have Sonobus and Soundjack up running at the same time. We should experiment with that and see how does it go. Maybe in the next in the next webinar session we will have some answers to that question. How could we do that if all the singers were out in their own room?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
and then I think last question here, how long do you conduct online comparing to face-to-face? Is it shorter? So I suppose in terms of, is it more tiring? So I assume that's what's meant by this question.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, it's written, how long do you conduct online comparing to face-to-face? Is it shorter? So,
meaning teaching
Might
or
be the movement, maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe we can ask the person
movement.
to repeat
yeah.
So technically,
what they mean.
Okay, that's actually a good suggestion. Maybe the one who asked this question could elaborate on this, and we take another one instead. So another question: could video be prioritized if combination of Soundjack and Sonobus is used?
Yeah, now we are getting into some technical details. I'm a more more a musician than a technical guy, so I don't know how that could be solved. But I think it's worth trying it out.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of trial and error, just like Jurriaan's story. Just dive into it, and then you become a professional over time, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks a lot for this very, very good insight into Soundjack. And now to come to an end, we will leave sort of the beaten tracks and we'll hear about a tool that has only very recently been developed. It's called Digital Stage, and we have both people from the developing team of Digital Stage here and Saartje and Sophie Brockmans from the choir Musemix, who is using Digital Stage already. So we will hear from them how this is going.
Yeah, Alfred, thank you for introducing us and also parts of our team. So I'm today here with Daniel Zimmermann, with Petra Fiene, and with practitioners Saartje and Sophie. And my thank is going to Sonja. Thank you, Sonja, for inviting us today. And to give me the opportunity in the name of our team to introduce Digital Stage. And to introduce me, I'm Fee Altmann. I'm the managing director since beginning of this year. And now I try to share my screen. Just a second. Wait now. Okay. So,
no, Fee.
Sorry, can you see?
I don't know. Where did the others see it?
No, not yet. It's only white.
Not yet. Okay, then I have go back. We had this while at the beginning when we were trying it, and I actually. So now again.
That looks good.
And
yeah.
Now it's working now. So,
now there it is. Yes.
Fine. So yeah, what is Digital Stage? Or better, for what are we standing for? First of all, Digital Stage is a project that brought together last year in March 2020. So during the first lockdown, people who wanted to help and who wanted to find a solution caused in this very difficult situation last year caused by COVID-19 and the pandemic crisis. And they came together because the German government organized a hackathon that was called Wir versus Virus, which means we versus virus. And the hackathon was just a tool to connect people and to empower them with their good ideas to come together and to find a solution to overcome the crisis. So the idea of solidarity is very, very strong in our team. And I think you will learn about that while I can tell something about our team and our solution. So these people came together, and what did they found? They found Giso Grimm, which is an IT expert from Oldenburg and a very passionate viola da gamba player. And he developed this IT solution, the so-called Orlando Viols technology, for his quartet, to be able to continue on a weekly basis the rehearsals they did. And we have a cooperation with him and using his technology. So we are using this shortcut OV to always give a sign that we are referring to his technology. So Digital Stage, what are we offering? We are offering an audio video conferencing tool, which is really designed especially for artists, for the whole field in the arts, but also, so that means for dancers, for theater, and also performing arts, but also for musicians, what you are. And with a minimal latency, you are allowed, like with the other solutions that you have seen, to make music. But what makes us very unique in the field, or better perhaps what makes us very strong is the high quality audio we have, the 3D audio. So that means when you enter into the digital or onto the digital stage, you really have the very immersive impression of being in one room, and you have a natural surround sound, like as if you would be in the same room. You have a very good acoustic impression. And what else makes us very strong is, of course, like some of the other solutions, we are an open source solution. So we invite others to cooperate with us, and we are a non-profit company. That means that our main goal is to bring, and I highlight that on a non-profit basis, a very high quality digital tool to all who need at home a non-expensive but stable digital solution, which is technically easy to handle, where no server setup is to be done by you. So it's also a peer-to-peer solution. And we offer a very strong and a very strong support system that empowers you actually to handle the technology. And what we have, or actually when we finally have finished all our developments, is the Digital Stage Web. It's a browser-based solution, which is not for the musicians under you. It's more for dancers and theater. You have already the 3D sound, but the latency of around 50 to 100 milliseconds is not for making music. But for the musicians, we have the Digital Stage OV PC, so Orlando Viols based PC version. So that means you can download the application on your Macintosh computer. We are developing the Windows version during the next 12 months. And for the Windows users, you can download the solution on a stick, and then you can boot from the stick our solution to use it. Or the last thing we offer is the OV box. So this is the little Raspberry Pi mini computer you see on the image. And then it's a plug and play solution. And then with the little techniques you see here on the image, you can start. So the prerequisites you need to start is you need a very good internet connection. This is what the others said. So you need at least 10 Mbit upload. So this is actually what you have normally at home, not in Germany, but in the other countries, yes. You need an interface, you need a headphone, you need a microphone. So as we have seen with the other solutions, and then you can start to make music with Digital Stage. And at the moment, we are in the moment of, or in the process of finalizing our development partnership. So this is a huge invitation to all of you to get in contact with us within the development partnerships during the next 12 months. We have the goal to develop our 3D quality audio solution also for larger groups. That means for 30 to 36 people, because at the moment we are limited to 10 to 15 people. And next to that, we are also trying to check out another solution, which is not a 3D solution, but a very high quality solution, to also bring a solution to you, which is for large groups. So this is what we want to do in the next 12 months. So yeah, from my side, if you are interested, I have my email address here, fealtman@digitalstage-org. Sorry, fealtman@digitalstage.org. And I'm very happy to have Saartje and Sophie here, who tried out our Digital Stage for their core. And now I stop my presentation, Saartje, so that you can take over.
Yeah. Wait a second. So. So now you should see it all. All right. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we see
Okay.
it.
Okay. So yeah, thank you for your invitation. We are happy to be here as well. I'm Saartje. I'm a board member of Musemix, which is an organization in Belgium, which has, among others, 3 choirs, 3 pop choirs, non-professional choirs, one has to say. But and Sophie came with me as well. She is a conductor of these 3 choirs, but she's also a board member. And we are glad to tell you about our experience with Digital Stage using the OV box. So Faye explained to you there's 4 different concepts that they are developing, and we are using the OV box. So some months ago, when we were looking for solutions to be able to sing online, we had some requirements. It was quite a list. And one important thing was for us that we did not want that the quality of computers of what participants have is important. And we did also not want that there's some software required with settings, maybe sometimes also complicated settings, because we wanted that the participants do not have to take care of many things themselves. And somehow very related to that is the usability. So for us, the usability of the whole system was very important. We have people of different ages, of completely different backgrounds, with different levels of intelligence, IT experience, technical knowledge. And like that, of course, it's very important that the usability is very important. You see here on the picture, that's a youth choir, but we also have adult choirs. That's just, we have a mix of all. So of course, all of us want one thing that's clear, good latency values. That was, of course, also one requirement for us. And the second last requirements that we had was focusing on time, because we were all tired. Sophie as a conductor, but also the choir members, they were all tired of only hearing themselves in the Zoom rehearsals, if you can call it a rehearsal at all, right? And we were all tired of that, and we wanted to be able to start as soon as possible. And that was possible with Digital Stage, because we just had to order the hardware distributed among the participants. They just had to plug it in and they could sing along, because as soon as they plug it in, 1 minute later, they hear each other as if they're in the same room. So it was really easy to start fast, and that's what was for us very important. Of course, a good sound is also a very nice to have requirement that's clear, and the 3D audio that Digital Stage offers without any compression, like Faye already told, it's really like that. You just hear each other as if you're standing next to each other in the same room, and that is really extremely great and really convincing. That one has to say. And it was quite some requirements that we had, but we found it with Digital Stage, and that's why we really wanted to start with it. And like 2.5 months ago, we started to order our stuff, and yeah, then we started to sing along. And there was quite some other interesting additional features that we discovered later on, which were not on our list, but after all, we see that these are also very useful. So one can choose to change the acoustics of the room size, and so on. But something that we really rather continuously use is the option to swap place of singers. So you can, there's people that want to have the people of the same voice standing next to them. Other people rather have all voices in their ear. So each participant can choose that for himself. So we can swap the place of singers. So like they are in the same room, then you can also hear the person next to you hear better, of course. Yeah. And what the participants also can do is that they can adjust the volume of how they hear the others. So that's actually closely related to what I said before. And all the settings that one can do, you can choose to do that centrally controlled. So if you think, for example, with our youth choir, that's for us no option that they control it themselves. But if you have some people that are in good shape and somehow they have some more technical knowledge, you can also choose that they control their boxes themselves. But you can have a combination of it as well. So some people control it themselves and some are controlled centrally. And of course, just like with all the other solutions that are presented before today, one needs to buy some hardware. Yeah, but that is of course true. That's some cost, but that's all standard hardware. That's a very good advantage. So you can also use it for many other use cases. Of course, also if you think you only need it in Corona times, you can also resell it later. So that I think like that you can make sure that the cost after all is not so high. And clearly, the combination of the video transmission, which is possible at Digital Stage, is also very nice as well. And what we did not know 3 months ago when we started, but what we can tell now is that the support from the digital stage team is really great. One has always direct contact, and you always get a fast response, and that was of course a big plus. But because you always need, and there's always something where you need some help, and that was very useful for us to to get it running. Yeah, let us shortly. We have also only a very short, a very small recording. It's also not a professional recording, so you please don't listen too well at it. But I think one can hear very well how synchronous it is in digital stage when we sing in digital stage. But before I let you hear it, I also have to say we are not professional choirs, and the choirs were only rehearsing like some weeks when it recorded it. So of course one has to think about that when we hear the rehearsal, right?
1, 2, 3, you light up in the dark. You're the glow in the process, work of art. Oh, I see a shining star. You're the light from afar. Oh.
Yeah, it was only very short, and like I said, it's not a professional recording, not known professional singers, but I think you can hear very well how synchronous it is. And like Jesper already thought, there was quite some emotional moments like we all got when we could finally sing again. And we have also had that as well. So after all, we are very happy after these 2 months of rehearsals with our 3 choirs. And as I said, we have completely different types of people, completely different backgrounds. And the good thing really great thing with digital stage is they don't need to understand anything about the system. They just get their stuff, they plug it in, and as soon as they put the power in, they wait 1 minute and they hear the others in the same room. And that's really, really a big advantage for us because, as I said, we have a big range of intelligence levels in our groups, and that doesn't matter. They all can participate and they're all happy to sing. We always do the rehearsals with the full group, although Fee said one cannot have all in the room yet, but for us that's not a problem. We do that with 10 to 15 people in one room, and so these people hear each other, but all others hear them as well, so they can also sing along. So then still not singing to the walls anymore. Yeah, and of course we want to have all of them in the same room somewhere, but now we have some workarounds like bridging between different rooms or lowering the sampling rates. Like that, we already increase the possible number of participants for the moment. But we know that the digital stage team has some other options which they are working on to increase possible number of participants, and we are very excited about that for the 4th wave, which is maybe coming, or if not, we have enough other ideas to use the system after Corona time. So, so in any case, it doesn't matter how Corona goes on, we are happy with other options to increase the number of people. Yeah, so it was a very short insight in our experience with singing online using digital stakes or the OV box. If there's any questions, you can just ask it now, but you can also write us an email. We are happy to answer.
Thanks a lot. So there were 2 questions with regards to digital stage, and both are on the OV box. So the first question is money. How much is one OV box unit? Is it available? Can it be bought?
Yeah, the OV box, we are saying that the people can buy cost around with everything you need for. So you need the card and you need the box and you need all the rest is around 70 euros.
Okay, and then also concerning the OV box, does it work with Windows?
Oh, yeah, okay.
So the OV box, for the OV box, you don't need Windows because you have the little Raspberry Pi computer, or what you can do is to use a stick. So this is what we tried with Windows users, that you have a stick where you downloaded the software and you boot from the stick. Then you can use your Windows computer.
Maybe I can add something to it. So that's what our main reason was for us. So with us, there's no computer involved, and indeed, the participants are sometimes also confused about that in the beginning, at least. So that's just a little box, and you even don't need to switch on your computer. You just plug in this little box. So I have it here. Yeah, you plug it in into your power. You plug it in at the internet, and then you just can. Of course, you have to connect the microphone and the headset, that's clear. But otherwise, you don't need to do anything. So your computer is not involved. We only use the computer if you want to do video. That's the only reason why we use the computer. And that's what was a big reason for us to use the digital stage of VBox, because we are not depending on what computer the people have. We are not depending on how much knowledge they have about their computer, what rights they have on their computer. Because of course, if you have a computer from the office, you cannot do everything, and that was very important for us. Also because we have young people involved, and so that's a very big advantage for us.
So for the box, you need one screen to control your audio. So to press play, at least one person in the choir needs to have that. And by the way, that's also a concept decision from Digital Stage from the very beginning in last March, that we said we want to have it exactly customized to musicians and singers. So a web version that has the video as you have in Jitsi and Zoom and so on has different groups, so you can have 2 or 4 groups and the video is different. And that group means you have one volume for all the soprano or alto. And also it can be remote controlled. So one person who is the technician of the choir can set everyone's volume and press play and everything for everybody, so you don't have to talk to people and lead them through and help them through their problems, but you can remote control everything.
Yeah, Daniel, that's true. So they all don't need to have, that's what I meant. They all don't need to have any understanding of the whole system.
Yes.
But you said you need one technician. I have to say I did that up till now for our choir. I am not a technician, so it sounds a bit difficult, but it is not difficult. It's really easy to use. Even I did it. So that's for us, like I said, that was for us a big advantage, that you don't need, the people do not need to understand anything. They just need to understand how they plug in something, and that's it. And I, as a non-technician, could do it as well. So that's for me, for us, I have to talk about me and Sophie and all the others from Musimix. For us, it was very important, and we tried, and as I said, we are really happy with it.
Next to usability, it's also the performance that gives a boost. If you have this Raspberry Pi PC that is not too expensive, that does do nothing but audio. So you will get less dropouts than with any PC that has to do a lot of side jobs. You know, everything that has an update in the background will destroy your audio, and you have to fine tune everything. And the box is just put in Ethernet and your USB sound card with microphone headset, and you're done.
And speaking of the Raspberry Pi, the question is, if I already have one, or already have a Raspberry Pi, can I install the OV box software on it?
Daniel, may you take over?
Yeah.
You are the technician under us.
Petra started to say something, so you can't interrupt me. But yes, at the moment, it's not a finished product that everybody can just use, because our servers might get overloaded. So you're very welcome to shoot us an email, and we will walk you through the process. But it is possible. It is on our website forum description how you install the software. It's just put something on the SD card in 5 or 10 minutes. Everything is really, really easy described. We tested the description already with many choirs and musicians. So that is proven to work on first try. You need to have like 1 hour at the first time. Saartje, right? So it doesn't work in 1 minute. So you need to expect.
I measured the time, yes.
Yeah.
I needed so I did like 40 boxes, and I needed 4 minutes per box. I measured the time in the beginning. But if anyone is interested, I'm really happy to. We have all because we were the first choir using it. We had many things written down, so you can always contact people from Digital Stage, and we are happy to help as well, of course.
And we do have groups in Germany, Hamburg, that have 20 or 200 boxes. So there's not at one time 200 in one room, but exactly as Saartje said. So until 10 persons in one room works pretty reliable with everyone's internet. And if you have the blessing of, I think it was Jim's internet with a gigabit,
Yeah.
And you can try 100 persons. So normally 10 should be pretty reliable and stable. But if you have glass fiber, you can go up as much as you want. So the Raspberry Pi can do quite a lot of audio channels because it's not compressed. So that's a difference to Jamulus and some other where Soundjack also has a box and that is compressed and that takes a little bit more CPU, but that should just work. And if you don't want to pay the €70, it's completely compatible. So some of the choir singers can use the stick, just reboot their Windows PC into that software, and then join the other people that have the box. So it's the same audio.
Just to add a little detail on that, you probably won't have good experience on all Raspberry Pis. They come in different sizes, different models, and what you need at least is a Raspberry Pi model 4B with at least 2 gigabytes. Then you can install it on it.
Very good, thanks. So there's a question if there is any choral demo, rehearsals, or performance available on Digital Stage, and I believe I have seen some videos on your social media. I think on Instagram, not only choral but also orchestral. Is that true? Or where else can we go looking for them?
So we have I have a little video actually where you can see how it works, and I can chat the address to the Vimeo link where you can have a look how it's looking, how is the front end, and how a quartet is making music.
Okay.
And perhaps because the question was also in the direction of getting more information, perhaps Daniel, you may say something to the discourse channel we have and the forum.
Yeah, so I pasted the link a little bit early to another question. So it's just forum.digital-stage.org, where we have a lot of information and support, and also describe some of the other tools that we mentioned today. But you get all information about Digital Stage there. Also our contact at Digital Stage address is always answered by Fee, myself, the team. And I have one more YouTube links just this second posted, where you will get all the videos, a few more videos for music, dancing, choirs, string, quartet to enjoy. That's just the screen recording of Digital Stage and a camera in the room, but it's not altered, not any delay. So one thing I wanted to say to the video delay, because we had the question with another tool earlier, we also have the video in our own tool because we optimized for speed. So we ripped out everything that is doing video processing compared to Jitsi and Zoom and all the others, and just make peer-to-peer video. So there's no server, no video mixing involved. So it is a little bit faster than other solutions. And you don't want to delay the video in order to be lip sync, because for doing music live together, for singing together, you want the fastest possible audio. And even it's sorry to not be perfectly in sync with the video, especially if you are a conductor. It's more important to have the fastest possible audio than to be lip sync with the video, I think.
Alfred?
Yes.
Can I maybe answer the question from Jurriaan?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
So Jurriaan asked whether one can bridge audio to Zoom for people that are not using it yet, and that's exactly what we do. So in the beginning, before we used Digital Stage, we were using Zoom only. So our people were used to Zoom, and at the first moment, we did not want to switch also the video system, because one can do that with Digital Stage as well. But we first stayed at Zoom to let the people get adjusted to all other things, and then we put from one of the boxes, we put out the audio into the Zoom, and everyone who is not into the room with Digital Stage can just sing along with Zoom, indeed. But you can do that in any video system, but indeed that's possible.
A lot. And then Jim just asked the question, how much latency have you experienced in a choir singing, in a choir using the box? And it has just been answered by Fee in the chat. So 25 to 50 milliseconds. And the probably last question, just to wrap it up, from Patrick, you said boot a Windows PC with an OV stick. I thought I heard Mac only. So Petra could probably clarify this.
Basically, this OV stick is an image of Ubuntu Studio, which is fit for real-time music, and the OV client installed on that. So basically, it's you can plug this this stick into any notebook, any PC that is that can boot from a stick. So it's not only for Windows PC, but if you boot it up, it's an Ubuntu Studio that you're looking onto.
Thank you, Petra. Okay, now it's 6:45, 13 minutes to 7. So let's try and stay within the 2 hours, shall we? So thanks a lot to all the presenters. I think it was a lot of input, probably even more than we could take in. And you have asked the question repeatedly if we can share the slides with the attendees. Yeah, we will talk about this with the presenters, and we'll let you know about this. And then there was another question pretty early into the webinar. It was a question about the cyber risks in peer-to-peer systems. So that was an overall question. The question, if I open my PC to the internet to receive connections, can that be a vector for malware attacks? So anyone feels confident to answer this one?
So for Soundjack and other applications like Jacktrip, you only open one port on one PC, and if no application is listening on that port, nothing will ever happen. And the only application that is listening is Soundjack or whatever application, audio, even gaming you have. That will be secure enough to really give no attack surface that you should be concerned about. So really be assured that this may look suspicious, but does not open up your PC to the world.
And then, of course, the inevitable question open to all our panelists tonight: which tool is the best? Of course, we all have been waiting for this. So anyone wants to answer to this one? Jim, go on. That's your role. Which one is the best?
One size doesn't fit all, so that's the beauty of it. I'm really inspired by this box, and surely we're gonna buy some of them for the academy, because it seems like really cool that you can have latency between 25 and 50 with plug and play. Yeah. So I mean, we should be open-minded, and as a lot of people said, it's not one size fit all, and we can't just adapt normal rehearsal to a digital tool. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit the same. I wanted to say it's not about us to judge who is the best. Yeah, it's the others. It's the users actually who will tell us what fits.
Yeah, for the first weeks in the hackathon, we did not want to start something by ourselves. And we did not. We started to use anything that is available. We wanted to go open source. So after a few months of very close collaboration with Soundjack, and I really have to give a big thumbs up to them and all the other authors. So especially Alexander Caro is working on that field for 20 years now, and he's a real expert with live audio streaming over the internet. Chris Chafe is doing that from the beginning. The first time I did audio over the internet was 2003. So it's been a long time coming, and even in our team we had different solutions tested and worked on the first try on different PCs. So one could get JamKazam to work, but not Jamulus, and I could get Jamulus to work on the first try, and so on. So it is okay to have several tools because the market is so huge. And there is no one tool that is so much better than the others. All of them are still developing, fixing bugs and scrambling to get musicians online again. And I'm very, very happy and thankful for that. And I believe that the situation will improve with the improving internet. So I work a lot with Vodafone and Telecom and other companies on the upcoming Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7, 5G networks. So that would help as well.
Thank you. Yeah, as you just said, there's a lot going on and a lot still to be developed. And actually, Sonja is going to tell us a bit about our plans for our upcoming Europa Cantat Festival in July.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I wanted to add that the European Choral Association-Europa Cantat decided to become a partner of Digital Stage. I think we may have forgotten to say that in the introduction, and we've been supporting Digital Stage, and I've been part of the team for quite a while. And we said when we prepared the session, we realized that we're going to pack a lot into a very short time, that if some conductors are interested or some other people who are watching are interested in a more detailed session only about Digital Stage, we can arrange that. You can write to Fee or you can write to me, and I will post my address in the chat. And the second thing is that you may have heard about the Europa Cantat Festival, which will not exactly be a festival as usual this year, but we will have a rich online program happening between July 17th and 22nd. And there will be several sessions about this topic as well. So Jim will do a follow-up session on today in a way, telling us what has happened between now and July. You will be able to observe a whole Jamulus rehearsal with a Dutch conductor and ask questions about the methodology used. And we will try to make a performance with Lola between the Music University in Ljubljana and Jim's conservatoire. So if you are interested in this topic, you can follow us and follow the website of the festival and find out more about this when we will publish it in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Speaking of which, let's stay in touch. Follow us on social media, of course, to not only find out about the festival, but about what we do in general and about upcoming webinars as well, because we do quite a lot of them. And you will then find when you follow us that the next one is actually this Thursday already. It's a completely different topic, but not that different. It's still connected to singing, of course. It's about the world of professional choirs and how to get into them. So as I said, pretty different topic, but a very, very important and interesting one as well, I'm sure. So that's it from our side, really. Again, thanks a lot for all of you listening and watching this evening. It's been 2 hours now, and it's been a long 2 hours and with a lot of information. And we'll leave you now to your evenings and nights. There will be some follow-up information from our side, and we will share, of course, a lot of information shared here with you as well. We'll have some, we will ask you for some feedback because, I mean, you already mentioned some things that could have been better, especially in the beginning. And yes, it's a process. Everyone's always learning, and so are we in making those webinars. And again, thanks a lot to all the presenters, and really great job. And I hope we all enjoyed this a lot. So have a good night, good evening, and hopefully see you soon.